All right, guys, we're going to do a wrap up. This is the next day. I tried to do it last night. I ended up too close to a daggum tree frog. It got really loud. Why am I out here looking like me? I am because I'm not an attorney and I can do what I want. Mr. Villar dresses better than me because that's his profession. I was walking out here and right about that tree there, you can't really tell me, but I jumped 2 fawns out here. I'm waiting for Mama Deer to come attack me because I mess with her babies, but she won't. She's somewhere nearby and she sees I'm not messing with her babies. This is where I want to be. I want to be in the woods. I don't want to be in the courtroom. I don't all that kind of stuff, man. Everything I said in that video, I agree with. There were some edits, and I apologize. Some of them were odd. I was hitting the wrong pause button as screen record versus YouTube. I'm not a professional yet, but the gist is there, and I did edit out some coughs and stuff like that, but I agree with Mike's intent, but he failed on this one. For somebody who claimed he watched the majority of the trial, there was so many facts that were incorrect, mainly that it was a pursuit. If it was a pursuit, I said it in the video, why didn't they have their lights and sirens on? Okay. My issue with this whole thing and why I'm glad it was brought to the forefront. What was Mr. Goggins guilty? The jury found him innocent. Okay, if we had a competent APA, could it have been more of a chance for them to find him guilty as like a larger contributing factor to the death of Miss Ophelia Nunez? Maybe. But when they do these things, and they do that every day, that's the thing that's missed by everybody. I don't know if I've said it on the channel. I am a former police officer. Okay, I was licensed in Michigan and in Texas. And when it first came up, and I'm like, what's going on? I reached out to one of my first field training officers in Texas. And I'm like, dude, what do you think about this? And we're chatting back and forth. And he's going, well, if it's done safely and the roads are good. I'm like, dude, no, the law says this. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. And there's a sovereign mindset and a sovereign culture within law enforcement. Not just in Allegan County, not just in Michigan. It's everywhere. Okay, it's clear. The policy and procedures say you have to have your lights and sirens on if you're going to violate vehicle code. State law, again, 257-603, 257-632, which I will do my best to put them on the screen during this video. So I'm not completely stealing his video, but I cut it in a bunch anyway for just fair use. The culture of police is we're gonna do what we want. No, I'm worried about where they stop. What are they doing inside the vehicle? Are there shoes in? Dude, it's bunk. Okay. At the time they pull out of the MDOT entrance there and pursue this van. What crime do they have? Is it even a crime? It's not. All they have is a civil infraction for speeding. That's it. There's no jail time. There's no nothing. And because of the sovereign culture in law enforcement across America, Miss Ophelia Nunez is dead today. They were violating MCL 257-603 and 632. They were violating the field training manual. They were violating policy and procedure manual of the sheriff's department. All admitted in open court during their testimony from Osthoff, and I should have watched my video. I can't remember the other guy's name. This is not an isolated incident. It's isolated because they were a contributing factor to the death of Ophelia Nunez and the pretty gnarly, horrific injuries to Jose. Okay? Again, it wasn't a pursuit, but what if they did have their lights and sirens on? I believe the testimony of the trial was there was the measurement said there was I think 5 seconds, 4 to 5 seconds that for sure Jose would have seen the deputies violating the law. But at 90 miles an hour, I don't think most people realize how fast 90 miles an hour is. Okay, you're really outrunning your siren at that point. Hi, Mike. I appreciate what you're doing with exposure and transparency within the county. This one was so off base. I really needed to correct it. We're all imperfect, 100%, but this was so bad. Anybody watching this trial would have known it wasn't a pursuit. And I think your pursuit, a nice pun, right? Trying to expose Myrene, you went too far. But I said in the video, August 6th is the primary here in Michigan for the parties. Two heads of one snake. But get out there and vote for who you want. Okay? Do you like what Myrene's doing? Do you like what Mike is proposing? That's you, not me. Okay? But just make sure you get out there, you vote hard, and you vote often, and a bunch of times. All right, guys. Peace. 7:30. God bless you guys. Until next time, we're KRT. Hey guys, it's John with the Elegant Observer, and I'm getting ready to make a series of videos regarding a case in the Supreme Court regarding one of the judges in our county. And I stumbled upon this, and anybody local in Allegan County knows politics. We know Mr. Villar is running again to challenge Myrene Koch, our current prosecuting attorney, in the Republican primary. Last time he lost to her by, it was under 20 votes. I want to say it was like 15 or 16. I don't remember the exact number. It was under 20 votes. And he's released a series of videos exposing what he sees within the current prosecuting attorney's office and the issues. Pretty close. I did a series of videos after the Goggins trial, the People versus Goggins. And I apologize for them tree frogs, guys. Welcome to the country. Anyway, he talked about it, and I think he directly misstated facts, basic facts of the trial and the case in an attempt to discredit his opponents. Okay, I ain't gonna lie. I'll be 100% open. I voted for him in last time, and I'm planning on voting for him again. But I think he totally went wrong on this one. So, freaking tree frogs. So let's see. Hopefully this works out.
Hi, I'm Mike Villar, and I'm recording a series of videos about my campaign for Allegan County Prosecutor. That election will be the primary election on August 6th of 2024. In this video, I'm going to talk about my opponent's relationship to law enforcement. When you are the prosecuting attorney, you have to have a solid relationship with the police officers that work with you on a day-to-day basis. When you do things that harm that relationship, it should be obvious that the less that police and prosecutors work together, the more difficult it is to obtain convictions and to keep us safe. And so I want to tell you a story about what happened recently in our county. There was an Allegan County deputy who was involved in a high-speed chase. Someone pulled out in front of the deputy.
Hit the wrong button there. This was not a police chase. Okay, it was. We'll skip Pizzagate. it was a field training officer and a deputy in training claiming they were trying to catch up to a speeder. Okay, there was no chase. Well, Mike, if there was a chase, why did they not have their lights and sirens on, going 90 plus miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour speed limit?
And unfortunately, there was an accident, and there was someone that was killed, and the other person was seriously injured. The state police are always called in to investigate that type of situation. So the state police came in, and they did an investigation, and they found that the Allegan County deputy had followed all the appropriate protocols. And so it was an accident, but it was not something that was based on his negligence, because he followed the protocols that you follow when you're in a high-speed chase. It was submitted and forwarded to my opponent.
I apologize. I keep hitting the wrong pause button. Again, factually incorrect. Okay. The fault of the accident was in part the deputy going 90 miles an hour, roughly, give or take, without license sirens, and the fact that the other vehicle, driven by Jose Nunez, didn't make a complete stop per vehicle data and failed to yield to a vehicle violating the speed law, even within the exemptions allowed under state law, which it's MCL 6, I wrote it down because I knew I can never remember one of them. There's two of them. It's MCL 257-603 and MCL 257-632, which allow emergency vehicles to violate the speed law when they're using a light and or siren. So.
Now, generally, if you are the county prosecutor and one of the issues is a county employee or a county deputy is being potentially charged with a crime, what you would usually do is recuse yourself. You'd say, I cannot decide this matter because no matter which way I do it, it'll look biased. So I can't not charge this person because it may look like I'm favoring him, and people would question.
I could agree that a recusal probably would have been proper in this. Okay, I'm with you there, sir.
So the mechanism that we have is that you would recuse yourself, and you would ask for a different county prosecutor from another county to come in, review the case, and take over the case. They could make the decision to prosecute or not to prosecute it, and it wouldn't involve the county prosecutor whose deputy is being charged or potentially charged. So what happened in this case is my opponent decided to level charges against a deputy in the Allegan County Sheriff's Department. Mm-hmm. She also decided to use the Allegan County Sheriff's Department as witnesses against an Allegan County deputy.
Yes, because they were the witnesses to it. If Myrene had recused and it was referred to another county, be it usually they go local, if it was Van Buren or Kent or Ottawa or Barrie, okay, what witnesses are they going to use? Right, the witnesses that were there.
In fact, she used one of the Allegan County former deputies as an expert in that case to testify against.
So that I think he's referring to Mr. Chris Kewen. I mentioned him in my original stuff, and former deputy, but he also works in the prosecutor's office. So, yeah.
The Allegan County deputy. Now, I watched large portions of the trial, and I watched as the Allegan County deputies who were called to testify against this young man, had to testify that he followed all appropriate protocols. And then they attempted to get an expert to testify that somehow he was negligent because of that, and that didn't work very well. And so what happened?
No. Okay. 2 field training officers were on stand, given the field training manual, the parts related to the case being traffic stops, and they tried to bring in the pursuit policy, which doesn't apply because it wasn't a pursuit, and under cross-examination, neither field training, one was Sergeant Ostoff, who was a former field training officer, and I can't think of the other guy's name, the current, who's still at the time of trial was still a current field training officer. They couldn't point to it where you can go 90 miles an hour and violate state law per the field training manual, nor the policy and procedure manual of the Sheriff's Department. And Mike, I like you, but this is like crazy, dude. Yeah.
The jury found him not guilty very quickly, I think.
The jury found him not guilty. Part of what your point is against the prosecutor's or Myrene's prosecutor's office is because the APA who prosecuted it is, I don't want to be rude, he's horribly incompetent. And I back to my original videos, I haven't watched a lot of any trials lately, but the ones I saw from him, I saw 1 or 2 of them, maybe 3. Yeah, not good in a court. But at the same time, brass tacks, okay, do I think the former deputy should have had some punishment? Yes. Was the punishment being put through trial? Maybe. As the other vehicle failing to yield, even though the deputy was driving outside of their scope, be it policy or law, is a contributing factor to the crash that killed Miss Ophelia Nunez. I think these tree frogs agree.
I'm not guilty. What I'm concerned about is the long-term impact that has on the relationship between our current prosecutor and law enforcement. She has significantly damaged her relationship between the county prosecutor's office and local law enforcement. And now I think most of the people in the sheriff's department, I can't speak for all of them, but now they have some concern and some hesitancy. Does the Allegan County prosecutor have my back if I'm involved in a high-speed chase?
Again, Mike, this was not a high-speed chase. I can't believe you're saying this and you're claiming you watched most of the trial. I think it's healthy that if an officer does something extremely negligent, like going 90 miles an hour without lights and sirens, should fear prosecution. Okay? You know, okay. I'll let you talk, sir. I apologize.
The next question is, if I'm involved with it, if there has to be shooting involved, will I be charged? And that is not something that should be a part of the thought process of an Allegan County deputy or a Michigan State.
Yes, it should be. Okay? Their actions should be criticized and held accountable. Okay? Case law already allows variances and gives them some grace based on their actions. Okay, if they go above and beyond that, yes, they should fear getting prosecuted. Okay, and I'm not an anti-law enforcement guy. I know some of my other videos, you're like, hey, I'm not. I'm pro accountability and pro transparency. And I don't want my deputies in Allegan County or the state police officers in Allegan County going 90 fucking miles an hour without lights and sirens just to catch up to a speeder. So what as they're risking people's lives, and if we go with a fact pattern and again ignore Pizzagate, what were they doing violating the law in such a reckless and dangerous manner, chasing a speeding? What were they doing? Just so they could pull them over where they wanted to, maybe check for furtive movements? Ooh, this kind of stuff. Guess what? They're risking the lives of everyone along the roadway over a mere civil infraction. They only have a civil infraction. There's no jail time associated. It's just a flipping fine. But we're going to let them go 90 miles an hour? Come on, Mike. This is bunk. I get where you're going, but your misrepresentation of the facts of the case are really, as you can tell, bugging the crap out of me. All right, let's go.
Trooper when they're in Allegan County. They should know that the prosecutor in this county would have their back and would support them.
For what?
So in a case like this where this young man followed all appropriate procedures.
They didn't. Mike, pull the transcripts. We can go over them together. They didn't. Look up MCL 603 and 257 603 and 257 632. They didn't. Let's pull the policy and procedure manual of the sheriff's department. They didn't. Let's pull the field training manual, since the deputy involved, the driver involved was in field training. They didn't follow any of it.
And protocols where the state police came in and confirmed that he did not violate any policies, violate any procedures or any protocols. He did what police officers are trained to do.
That's the problem right there, Mike. That's what they're trained to do. But the policy and procedures, the field training manual, and state law disagrees with that training. And they admitted it on stand if you watched watched that trial. Okay, should it have been brought in? I don't know. Okay, could the state have a better chance of a conviction if they had a competent APA? Probably. But what you're saying is bunk, Mike. I'm sorry.
In a case like that, he should be able to have confidence that his own prosecuting attorney in his own county will not prosecute him or have any kind of vendetta against him.
There was no vendetta. If he followed his proper training, the field training manual, the policy and procedure manual, which obviously will be in concordance with law, in the state law that I've said a couple times, 257, 603, and 632, there wouldn't have been a trial because he would have had his damn lights on and his damn siren on, and chances are Mr. Jose Nunez would have seen them and actually yielded and not realized that they're going 90 flipping miles an hour in a 55. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You got the JD, not me.
And I don't know what my opponent was thinking when she decided to charge a young all the protocols who was exonerated by the Michigan State Police. What did she think would happen? What did she think the impact would be on the Allegan County deputies? All right, Mike, I think this is where we're kind of missing each other here. Again, I think you're trying to paint Myrene as a anti-police prosecutor.
which is bunk, okay? She's a lot of things, but she's not anti-police, okay? If you truly believe what you're saying, okay, I'll give you some grace. If you watch the trial, you know what I've repeated many times. They weren't in concordance with the field training manual. They were not in concordance with the policy and procedure manual of the Sheriff's Department. They were violating MCL 257-603 and 257-632. We're just going to let that go just because they're deputies and they should be held to a shrine? It's like you're creating a sovereign culture of the government enforcers. You know, this is going to be a fun one to edit.
And Michigan State troopers who patrol this county.
Oh, like Trooper Sarah Brown, who admitted she would do the same thing, even though it's a violation of MSP protocol and, again, the same state laws. You watched the trial, right, Mike?
It would have to be a negative impact. And I think it goes back to the incompetence I talked about in the previous videos, that this is part of the reason that she's only winning less than 20% of her district court trials. It's because she's making decisions that are not consistent with good prosecuting attorneys.
Well, a good prosecuting attorney would have a good relationship with the law enforcement, because obviously they need to work together to keep the peace, keep the law in check, that kind of thing. But they also would be willing to, when they see an officer violate state law, violate Sheriff's Department policy, violate field training, going back over the same stuff, man. They would be willing to get justice for Ophelia Nunez and Mr. Jose Nunez, who to this day is not well because of the actions of Deputy Goggins, former Deputy Goggins. Okay, was Mr. Nunez directly at fault for the crash? Yes, he failed to yield right away. Did former Deputy Goggins have a large contributing factor to the crash? Absolutely. Anybody going 90 miles an hour in a 55 is a contributing factor. Okay, lights and sirens would have been a benefit to everybody, but the sovereign deputies and the sovereign state police don't want to be held accountable, and I don't believe you're actually saying you're going to defend them in those situations, but that's kind of what I'm hearing.
I think it's important to understand that there's a difference in the role of a prosecutor and a defense attorney. A defense attorney has an obligation to his client. A prosecuting attorney has a different obligation. They have an obligation to the truth. And in part, they're the people that stand up for what is just and what is right in our society.
Right. What is right and what is just is if we have armed enforcers that aren't sovereign, aren't above the law. They are given exemptions in the law. Again, MCL 257, 603, 603 and 632, plus a plethora of case law. We don't need to coddle them, okay? We give them enough grace when their actions are so reckless. Yes, they should be called to the counter, or called to the table and saying, "Hey, what the?" Okay, and yes, they should face charges.
And they have an obligation to look at a case and say, if I can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, I should not take this case to trial. So what happens when you're losing over 80% of your district court cases?
Yeah, 100%.
Is there
brother.
no one in the prosecutor's office who will step up and say, we shouldn't take this case to trial because we can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yep.
We can't do it. And therefore, justice would demand that we don't take this to trial.
Correct.
Instead, what's happening is people are taken to trial and they're costing the county thousands of dollars. They're costing the defendant thousands of dollars on cases that are actually, they should never have been tried.
So this is where I agree with Mr. Villar, okay? And I've watched most of the videos he has on this channel, and I agree with the most part. But his talk about the People versus Goggins trial was so off base, I couldn't just not make a reaction to video to it. So I'm gonna watch this out. We got like 30 seconds or something. But, hopefully you guys can hear me over these tree frogs. They're as vocal as Mr. Mike and I am. So all right.
This is evidenced by the fact they're losing 4 out of 5 of them.
Yep.
And what that causes is the police, the defendants, the entire system of justice starts to fail because the prosecuting attorney has lost their way.